Welcome to your medicine journal. This journal is your trusted sidekick, a tool designed to help you keep track of the medications you take and how you feel. We've all been there, waiting weeks for a doctor's appointment while feeling unwell. Having questions like, is it the new medicine? Did I sleep okay? Why does something feel off? Swirling around in your mind only to slip away during those quick fleeting moments with your doctor. That's where this journal comes in. Keeping a detailed log of how you're feeling, your symptoms, and your experiences with medications is vital. It ensures you don't forget important details when it's time to talk with your healthcare provider. Here's how the journal can help. By updating it daily, you'll have a clear and accurate record to share with your doctor, helping them provide you with the best care. The small triangles in the outer corners of the pages can be folded down or removed as markers for special and specific entries you need to revisit or discuss at your next appointment. My hope is that using this tool consistently will support your healing journey, both for your body and your mind. You no longer have to leave appointments thinking, I forgot to tell the doctor about that. By bringing this journal along and recording your experiences, you'll have the most powerful reference to advocate for your health. Remember, taking care of yourself is a partnership between you and your healthcare team, and it all starts with you. Here's to your health and healing. To get your copy of my medicine journal, email info@courtneycoleman.com. Welcome to the Impact Zone. I'm Courtney Coleman, your mental health coach, hypnotherapist, author, and hostess of the Impact Zone. If this is your first time in the Impact Zone, hola! Thank you for listening. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast to catch the latest episodes and interviews. Come ready to be enlightened, encouraged, and supported to create the life you really want and deserve to live from the inside out. Now come join me inside this episode of the Impact Zone. Welcome to the Impact Zone. I'm Courtney Coleman, your mental health coach, hypnotherapist, author, and hostess of the Impact Zone. If this is your first time in the Impact Zone, hola! Thank you for listening. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast to catch the latest episodes and interviews. Come ready to be enlightened, encouraged, and supported to create the life you really want and deserve to live from the inside out. Now come join me inside this episode of the Impact Zone. And today we have a very special guest to talk about a topic that people need to talk about, but they avoid talking about. And that's perimenopause and menopause. So I would like you to welcome Miss Dr. Millie here with me. And she is going to give us a great conversation. But first, Dr. Millie, if you could tell us just a little 2-sentence introduction about who you are before we get started.
Sure. My name is Dr. Millie Lytle, naturopathic doctor. I've been practicing for over 20 years, and I have a program called Body Soul Connect, where women who are on a mission to do good in the world, but might be feeling bogged down by low energy or pain or anxiety, something that's keeping them from accomplishing their goals. Those are the women I love to work with in my practice.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Can you share with us why you got in the field that you're in?
Yeah, it was generally when we're in the holistic health or alternative medicine, there's usually a personal reason. So I was sick. I actually got diagnosed with a pretty advanced HPV with cervical dysplasia when I was about 20 years old. And the doctors were telling me that I should get laser, and if not, I would have to get a hysterectomy because it's precancerous, so it was a serious condition. And my aunt had actually died of cervical cancer when I was 10. She died very young at the age of 32.
Mm.
So it just made such an impression on me. And so I didn't like what the doctors were saying. I wanted to find another avenue. And it just so happened that I was working in a juice bar. I was in college at the time, and there were naturopathic doctors in the back. And I was telling her about my issues, and she said, there is a protocol that you can take for that involves supplements and diet. And so I did that protocol, and it healed on its own. So that really made a huge impression on me, and I decided that I wanted to change my focus as I was already studying women's health, but I really wanted to go in the direction of holistic healthcare.
Oh, great. That's a great story. Now,
Mhm.
question, because you're Dr. Millie, but you're doing holistic medicine, can you explain how you got to be? Because most holistic doc physicians or whatever you want to call them, they're not doctors. So can you explain to us that?
Well, healthcare is regulated by the state. And so every state, some states regulate and license naturopathic doctors and other states don't. So it really depends. So, for instance, I live in Florida. Florida does not regulate or license naturopathic doctors, but I'm licensed in DC, the District of Columbia. So I practice, but I don't practice primary care. I practice holistic, supportive, adjunct care. Women still have to go to their primary care doctor when they see me, but it can make a world of difference in their care when they're informed about their options holistically.
Right. What's the one thing patients do that you wish they would not do and why?
Well, it's so hard not to Google what's wrong, but it's great to be informed. I want my patients to read about their symptoms, but I don't want them to worry and stress and freak out and go to the worst case scenario. That's what I wish the patients would not do. It's one thing to get the information and to take it in and to consider what you're experiencing versus what Dr. Google says, but it's another thing to spiral and catastrophize and think the worst case. So we always have to think positive, you know?
Yes, we used to
Even when we're
call
not
that
feeling
don't WebMD yourself because WebMD will send you in a spiral. So
yeah,
years ago, that's what we used to call it. What's
exactly.
the best thing your patients can do for their perimenopause or menopause?
The best thing is to reflect on what the cycle is, because usually when we start having symptoms, so first of all, I think acknowledging that we can start going through perimenopause when we're young, like in our 30s, and it can be triggered by something like a pregnancy or even the inability to get pregnant can be a sign of it. So, and then we want to notice our symptoms and when they happen, like when they happen in relationship to our period, because that can provide a lot of information about when we feel our best, when we feel our worst, so that we can at least, before we even get treatment or seek care, we can manage our energy levels and know when our mood's going to be off, know if our libido is going to be high or low at this time. And I think women just need to know their cycles a lot better and be more understanding of themselves when they're going through difficult cyclical periods.
Mhm. So how would a woman know, like, this particular thing that's happening to me is something that I need to kinda remember in the back of my mind or write down so that I can keep track of? Like, what symptoms would that look like?
So, I mean, I would definitely recommend a period tracker, or depending on what type of, journaler, if you like to just take it the old-fashioned way, but there's definitely period trackers and you can enter in your symptoms. So symptoms would be like spotting between cycles. Symptoms would be tender breasts, maybe it's mid-cycle, maybe it's at the 3-week mark. If it's mid-cycle, it's because of high estrogen, whereas if it's at the 3-week mark, it could be due to low progesterone. And so depending on when symptoms are happening in our cycle, because our cycle should be 28 days. Now, that's another thing. Women have fluctuations. Some women have 21-day cycle, that's also a sign of low progesterone. A 40-day cycle, that's a sign of high estrogen, or at least in relationship to progesterone. So it's not just that our hormones get are high or low, is that they actually get thrown out of balance with each other. And this is something that we need to learn about our bodies because we're not taught it in school, and our hormones are always fluctuating through the month. And so the lowest hormone times are when you're menstruating, and then the highest estrogen time is when you're fertile, ovulation, mid-cycle, and then the highest progesterone time is around day 21, and that's when we're at our peak luteal phase. So if you are pregnant during that time, you start kind of like getting the lining of your in the uterus, protecting the baby. If you're not, then your lining builds up and prepared in preparation to bleed a week later. So this is all happening, and along with that, our emotions are changing. We're getting cravings, we're getting pain, we're getting spotting, we're getting libido changes. And so just like noticing what those changes are, and not all symptoms are bad. It's normal to have symptoms. They're only bad if they're really affecting our life and impeding our relationships and our own personal body image or sense of self, or impacting whether or not we can go to work,
Mm-hmm.
have a baby, or
So,
things we want to do, right? So
right, if it's
symptoms are
impeding on
bad,
your life, I
symptoms are
agree.
normal. Yeah, symptoms are
I
normal,
agree.
and we
Okay.
want to be understanding with ourselves. But if they're really impacting your life, then that's definitely a time where you want to get more education and seek help.
Mhm. So perimenopause can start for women in their mid 30s on up.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Because nobody told me any of that.
Hmm.
And, now that I'm can't believe I'm admitting that. Um, I think there was a period where I probably was going through perimenopause and I just had no idea. But then recently it was like, oh, I think I came and went real fast. It was a short time. But if I look back on the symptoms, it's like, I probably started like in my 30s. So I think it's definitely a conversation that we need to have more. Um,
Yeah. So
what's
yeah, sorry.
What's your most significant piece of advice for women besides not following Dr. Google down a rabbit hole?
um, Diet can make a huge impact on how our hormones behave, and how well we feel in our body. So don't underestimate the impact of diet. Like, uh, when we eat animal products, and I am not a vegetarian or a vegan, I eat animal products, but we want to be mindful that what we consume, it's not just that our moods have an impact on our cravings, it's that actually what we then eat and choose to eat has an impact on our mood and how we feel, not only mentally, but also physically. So some foods cause estrogen, like animal products have estrogen because they make their own hormones. So if we're eating dairy, if we're eating meat, the more of that we're eating, especially if we're having symptoms of high estrogen or low progesterone, like breast tenderness, heavier painful periods, bloating, holding water, anger, or other types of like depressive symptoms, weight gain, these will be exacerbated or made worse by eating a lot of animal products. So that
Mm,
person really needs to start eating beans and lots of fruits and vegetables. Doesn't mean don't eat any animal products, not saying that, but maybe during those times where you're getting those symptoms, you start to have more vegetarian foods in your diet, eat a little, cleaner, if you will. Also, seeds are they're excellent at regulating periods. So if somebody's having a lot of fluctuation through the month, like a lot of changeable feelings, a lot of bloating, you have your fat days, your skinny days, all that kind of thing, you're really feeling that, I would say to introduce flax seeds, 1 to 2 tablespoons per day. And there is seed cycling. There's a whole protocol that people can do in order to help regulate their periods through just flax seeds and pumpkin seeds. So do not underestimate the power of diet. It's extremely important.
right. Yeah, a lot of times people don't think that even when they eat something and then your body is trying to tell you you're reacting to something that your
Yeah.
body doesn't like. You're having a food allergic reaction. You might not be choking to death, but your body is telling you, like, don't eat this, don't keep eating this. And people just don't pay attention because they don't really think anything big about it.
It's true.
Uh,
We normalize all of those things. I mean, and we're told to take a pill for them, and so that's what we do, and we don't think further as to what's actually going on in our entire body when we eat foods that are inflammatory or foods that we're reacting to in some way. So it
Right.
does have a big impact.
Because I'd gone to the doctor and I said I needed an allergy test, and they were asking me questions, and I said, every time I go to McDonald's and I eat what was I eating? What's the syrup thing? I don't even know what it is. I haven't had it in so long. The McGriddle with cheese and orange juice and a hash brown. I, every time. And then I learned I was seriously allergic to mold. And one of the ice machine or water machines at the job, they hadn't had their filters or line cleaned out in a long time. So I was getting sicker and I didn't understand why until the doctor said, "Oh, you drink from a water machine at your job?" He's like, "The line is broken." And sure enough, I said, "You get somebody in here to fix this." And the line was broken and there was mold and stuff growing in there. So you have to pay attention to your body. It's showing you signs. You just need to pay attention.
Absolutely true. Yep, and mold is a killer.
Yes. What
Mhm.
is something that patients do that is harmful to them that they may not be aware of?
Um, I would say, okay, so people don't know that what they cut out of their diet has a big impact on their health. So, people, if they decide to cut out something like red meat, for instance, a lot of people cut out red meat. But then, if you're not eating red meat, and you might be doing that for health reasons, and that might be a good idea, or at least to minimize red meat, or at least to improve the quality of the red meat you're eating, there are options. But what I find is that people who stop eating red meat then eat chicken all the time. And there are
Mm.
so many negative consequences to eating chicken all the time. I mean, first of all, the poor chicken is one of the most factory farmed foods in America. And even though it's not necessarily given hormones, it's given pre-hormones. The size of chickens is huge. They're yellow. They're eating, industrial food. They're not pecking like their little ants and their seeds and their what they're supposed to be eating. And I think the harmful effects of just like overeating one food because we're restricting another food. So I'm picking on chicken, but in actual fact, that could be the case for anything. Like if I cut out milk and then all of a sudden I'm eating soy milk all the time, then I could be having negative consequences of eating soy milk and not realizing it. So a varied diet is extremely important. You want to keep variety in your diet as much as possible. And in fact, having a food less often that might be kind of bad for you might be better for you in the long run than removing that food altogether if it means you're going to be now adding something and eating that same thing every day.
Oh, wow. Hmm. So I changed from regular milk, cow milk, to almond milk. And I
Mhm.
drank almond milk for a while, but then I started to get like nauseous and I couldn't understand why. And somehow I figured out it was the milk. So I said, okay, I've had too much almond milk. Let me move to rice milk. But then as I go down the line, it's like, oh, you're not supposed to have rice milk. And I'm like, well, I'm here right now. Like, okay, what am I supposed to do? Oat milk, just too much. It's sugary or something. My body is just too much for my body. So now I'm just like, okay, what do I do? Coconut milk I'm going through all the things, but that's because I'm paying attention to my body. So I
Right.
just highly suggest people pay attention and kind of and a lot of times your body will give you the craving for the thing that you actually need that's healthy for you. That I have found out for myself. So
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of people think like, oh, they want to tie it to what used to work for them. So, oh, I've always been fine with that food in the past, or it's never given me a problem in the past. So then they don't know why it's giving them a problem now. But the reason is that your body's changing, the food could be changing as well, our environment's changing, you're aging, and you've just accumulated it to us. Your body's kind of like built a response now to it because some straw broke the camel's back, and that's how health is. There's straws on top of straws on top of straws. And then finally, there's the last straw. But it wasn't just that one straw, it was like the accumulation of all the straws over time,
I
if you will.
agree. I agree. Um, what is the hardest thing that patients need to learn for patients to learn?
I think the hardest thing for people to learn is moderation. Black and white thinking is so prevalent. It's like it's
Mhm.
almost easier to cut out something or to say no to something all the time versus saying yes sometimes or dabbling a little bit. So, and even just in terms of looking for magic cures or looking for, the one thing or the best thing, the world is gray. And our health results from many choices that we make over time, as well as genetics, and all of those forces combined is what determines whether or not we're well, we're feeling well, or if we're going in the opposite direction, we're not feeling well, we're sick, we're absolutely sick. And so it requires multiple different efforts to come out of that woods. We've gotten ourselves into the woods of illness and we have to kind of back out of the woods slowly. But it's not like one perfect thing is going to get you out of that woods. You have to you have to do a little diet change, do a little lifestyle change, do a little relationship changes or energy. We have to pay attention to ourselves on all these levels and nourish ourselves on all these levels, and it does take time, and it's not a magic bullet. And I think that that's very difficult. People don't want it to take time. People want solutions now, which is why when you go to somebody who's knowledgeable and experienced of all this stuff, there is rapid relief. Like there are things that we can do to get you better quite quickly, even though there's no kind of magic pill.
Mhm. Yeah, I think a lot of people in a lot of situations think there is a magic pill because we want immediate gratification and we want to run from pain as fast as possible.
Right.
So,
Yeah, and
um,
actually pain is teaching us a lesson. I mean, that, is a hard lesson sometimes. And I know it's very, very challenging for some people, but we do have to learn to work with it, right? And that's all types of pain because there's no such thing
never
as,
gonna go over you can't avoid it.
no, it's death. And maybe not even
Yes.
that. Mm.
Well, every day we're getting older. I've been talking to multiple people in different ways. We're dying as soon as we're born, we're dying in some way because that's just the natural nature of being a human or a living thing. And now we will have a message from our sponsor for this segment of the episode. Women out there, I'm not sure if you've ever heard of boric acid, but it's remarkable. And this company called Flower Power does it right. Their stuff is very finely ground, so it doesn't grind into your lady parts. It is also vegan, so there's no animal parts in there. So if you ever need a rebalancing, I highly recommend checking them out. Visit linktr.ee/coaching with Courtney and click the affiliate section and enter the coupon code It's Me Courtney C15. Please be sure to patronize our sponsors of this podcast. Now back to the podcast. So tell me, why should patients seek you out?
Because even though we're saying that this is a natural course of things, chronic disease is not actually a natural course of things, and chronic disease and aging are not the same. And this is something that I think is misadvertised at us. Like, we think that aging is being sick. And that is not what aging is. Aging, actually, being 48, being 50 is actually being in the prime of life, being in a time of life where, yes, things are changing. Yes, we're not 25 anymore, and maybe the fertility years are gone or nearly gone. But this is a time in a woman's life where she is empowered and she can prioritize herself and she can move on to the next journey, next landmark of her life to make big goals happen and achieve great things. And it's only through these past, 30 and, well, 50 years as an adult, or 60 years, however old you are, 45 years as an adult on this earth, that you've learned all the things, developed the expertise that you have now so that you can impart that onto the world. So I don't want people to think that, this conversation is depressing, that aging is dying, because actually there's a whole next 50 years. What are you going to do for the next 30 to 50 years? That could be the most important chapter of your life. And that's why people should come see me, because that's what I focus on helping people do.
So, as someone who is turning 50, like what are some of the symptoms that older women are getting that are past the perimenopause? Now we're in the menopause. What are some like signs my body would tell me that, this is what's happening to me?
So I do have a hormone symptom checker. So you can take the hormone test and see which symptoms pertain to which hormones. So, I mean, there are a lot of symptoms that can happen. I mean, everything from, as we mentioned, low libido to persistent fatigue, decreased muscle mass. These things happen as testosterone reduces, or increased body fat for no reason. Um, or we could have a problem with our thyroid, and we could start getting dry skin or feeling cold, or that's also unexplained weight gain, or brain fog, or sore throat, or constipation. Our digestive system slows down, so that would be the thyroid, and that can happen as we age. Insulin, so it's not just the sex hormones like estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. It could also be insulin. So if our body has stopped using blood sugar well and our insulin levels get high, and this is, whether or not you develop diabetes or not, many people are insulin resistant and are weight loss resistant, cannot lose weight even when they start, dieting or cutting back on sugar. And this is because our insulin is high. And so that could be having strong cravings, difficult losing weight, increased hunger, increased thirst, getting small skin tags or darkened skin. Um, so all of these symptoms could happen and be associated with different hormones.
Okay. And I know this one is going to shock everybody, but everybody wants to know because we've heard before, like women, as we get older, our sexual organs don't work like they did when they were 25, and we're drier, I guess, as we get older. So what should a woman do? Like how can she tell this is what's happening and what should she do?
So if we're starting to get changes in both libido, like interest in sex, or if sex is starting to get painful, that is usually associated with low estrogen. And so there are both natural formulations as well as medical prescriptions that you can get to increase estrogen levels. Now, sometimes it's just a matter of applying a small estrogen base, and it could be natural. There's a lot of controversy around taking estrogen because there were studies decades ago showing that taking synthetic estrogen increases the risk for heart attack in women and stroke. And so it was actually black boxed that women should not be given HRT, as it's called. But at this point, science and both the science, our knowledge of having enough estrogen in our body, as well as the route of administration, so how the estrogen comes, what it's made from. And so there's bioidentical hormones now that can be compounded, and there's also herbal HRT, which comes from plants. It doesn't even, it's not even actually the hormone, it just mimics the hormone and does that in our body. And there's also diet changes that can be done. I mentioned already the flax seeds. The whole phytoestrogen word is scary to some people because they think soy, and then they might think breast cancer, but actually having low levels of estrogen also predisposes us to breast cancer later on. So if you're having these symptoms, especially if you're young and having these symptoms, like 40 and under 40, and you're starting to have these types of perimenopause symptoms, it is very important actually to get that checked, because you don't want to be, the longer you are depleted in estrogen throughout your young life, it does increase risk of things like breast cancer once we hit menopause. So it is very important to attend to this, and I think the information is controversial, and the treatments are controversial, and so this is why it's really important to discuss it with a healthcare team, not just one provider, but multiple providers, and we'll do some reading on it and get clear. because you want to make the best decision for you, but there is a lot you can do. So I want to empower women to know that they're having these symptoms, no matter what age they are, that there's something that they can do about it.
Mhm. Now just because you see commercials or walk down the aisle where the women feminine care products are, there's all
Mhm.
types of lubes.
Yeah.
Now, as women, we can get UTIs, we can get infections, all that stuff.
Mhm.
Maybe could you tell us what we should be looking for, or make sure that the product has or doesn't have, so that that could be avoided, since women as they get older, they are not as, you know, moist as they used to be.
Yeah, so there's you wanna go for something that's hypoallergenic, absolutely. I wouldn't recommend something with any fragrances in it or any other product other than the lube itself. You can also go for natural products like a coconut oil. You always wanna be clean when you apply it, so you always wanna have clean hands, especially if you're inserting it internally, but you can also just use it externally just at the opening, just at the vulval opening, in order to achieve a similar result. It's not something that needs to be put inside. Essential oils are also nice. Ylang ylang, the
Lang
YLANG,
lang.
that
Mhm.
one, ylang ylang. That one's really also excellent for lubrication. Aloe vera as well, like a pure aloe vera gel. So you want to be aware of your body. Don't ever put in anything that has ingredients that you're allergic to, that you've had reactions to in the past, contact dermatitis or anything like that. And you wouldn't want to apply it if you do have any kind of like open lesion or something.
Mhm.
Um, so then you definitely want barrier protection. But that's what I would look for, is hypoallergenic and definitely free of fragrances. And even like using toilet paper that are scent free. It's important just to not introduce very many scents or fragrances, at least that are not natural,
Mhm.
into the vagina.
And for the people who heard essential oils, and when we say ling ling, you have to have a carrier. So it's not like, please just don't go buy a tincture and think you can just put it on you. Don't do that. Please don't do that. You have to have a
Yeah.
carrier in order to do that. So,
Yeah, so coconut oil is a really good one if you're good with coconut. Otherwise, there is jojoba, there's palm oil, so there's different, people use what they have in their cupboard as well. It sounds like you have to go out and buy something. I mean, olive oil can be used. And so, but the trick is applying as little as possible, minimally. Try it just externally first, see if that's sufficient. Um, and then douching is also something that's controversial.
yeah.
But you would never wanna douche with something with fragrance. You also want just to either douche with a little warm water if you do choose to douche afterwards. The vagina is a self-cleaning organ,
Mhm.
particularly when you're still bleeding. After a woman's done menstruating, then, it's more prone to infection. Not only is there less lubrication naturally, but then the blood is also, which is a self-cleaning agent, is no longer flowing. So therefore, it does require the woman to maybe take, especially if she's using products, to clean herself naturally, but also more thoroughly.
Okay. Oh, something just popped up. So there is a lot now about boric acid suppositories for women.
Yeah. Mhm.
Do you have any comments about that?
I really like boric acid. So suppositories are something that's kind of being cracked down by the FDA. They were kind of left alone for a long time, and I really love suppositories, especially as I was speaking about the condition that I had, HPV. I've used a lot of internal suppositories over the years and recommended them for people as well. Boric acid, more specifically, is good for bacterial vaginosis and or candida. It is an antimicrobial. It is something that you can get to clean your laundry, like it's kind of an alternative to bleach. But it's natural. It is safe to insert internally. Again, it is an acid, so you have to use it minimally and according to what you need, like what's helpful and what does not cause burning, because it can cause burning over time, especially if you have an infection and the area is red already. So it's not right for everybody, but it is good, especially for people who have more alkaline environment. Yeah. So not just her body, actually, her vagina.
Mhm.
So you can get a litmus test and test to see the pH of your vagina. However, usually if you're prone to infection or if you're having a lot of infection, especially like bacterial vaginosis or candida, it's because you have more of an alkaline environment, and that's due to a lack of lactobacillus, which is a certain type of bacteria, probiotic, good bacteria that should be colonizing the vaginal tract. And so we can get lactobacillus suppositories, or you can even take lactobacillus, a probiotic, orally, ingest it orally, take it in your mouth. And then that can increase the amount of lactobacillus in your vagina. So this is if you're prone to infection. You don't only want to deal with it with antimicrobials, antibiotics, antifungals, things like that. You also want to address it holistically so that you're not just killing the bacteria all the time, because the more you kill the bacteria, the less good bacteria will be there as well. And we need that good bacteria, not only because that's what makes a healthy vaginal tract to protect us from other infections, but also to lower the pH so that our vagina is naturally protected against bacteria in the first place. So really important to make sure that we're getting some lactobacillus. And some people use yogurt, a natural culture yogurt, and that's also something. And if that's soothing for you, you can even insert that. But you can also eat it in order to more slowly allow it to colonize your vagina.
Mhm. So I've been seeing lately where I guess oh my gosh, what do we call them? The You were just saying it. The
Probiotic.
probiotics, yes. The probiotics that we have on the shelves or what have you, um, for some reason, they don't make them so that they pass through all of our acid in our stomach and whatever, and then they actually nurture the parts that we need them to. So is it better to take a oral probiotic or a vaginal probiotic? I guess it just depends on the person or
Yeah, so if you are getting active infections and they're persistent and you're having a hard time treating them, or they continue to come back, I would suggest either a probiotic lactobacillus vaginal cream or suppository. Um, Definitely. And you can do that alternating with the antimicrobial that you're doing, whether you're doing boric acid if you're treating it naturally, or if you're doing some other like tea tree suppository can also be helpful. Or if you're doing more of like an antifungal, like something that the doctor's recommended, or even an antibiotic, you can certainly take it when you're taking antibiotics, you can insert that as well.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's good information to know.
Mhm.
Uh, what makes you different than your competitors?
Um, I I'm holistic. I really love to work with women who are working on this mission base for themselves, where they really feel like they're having a hard time either with an energy or with physical symptoms, and it's disrupting their work life, like the mission they have in their work. Now, whether that's to help their family or help, grow their business, it can range. But that really is something that I don't really see in my competitors, if you will. They don't seem to. I mean, I know naturopathic doctors do care holistically about their patients, but specifically, I do hone in on that life part a lot more.
Okay. Or is there anything that you have going on or you would like to share with the audience before we get off?
Well, I would love to share my quiz if that's something that we can share. A link to the
Mhm.
quiz, it's free. Then you can identify and match your symptoms to the hormones that might be either low or high in your body. And we talked about some of those symptoms and we talked about some of those hormones, but it's thorough. And I would love to invite everyone to my monthly Power of the Pause workshop. And so this is where we connect into quiet meditation and we do some workshopping, some journaling to think about, reflect on how our past month has been, what our goals are for the future, and we include, our physical and our emotional and spiritual, if you wish, well-being in that.
Okay. And
So
so
that
how do they get to the quiz and then how do they get to the workshop?
So they get to if they go to my website, www.drmillie.com, and then they click Mind Body Connect, then they will see both the quiz when they enter, and then also if they create a free account, they'll be signed up to the workshop automatically. I also
Okay.
do have a pop-up that comes up. They can register that way as well.
And that's DrMilllie.
.com. Yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure. It was such a pleasure to interview you today. Thank you so very much for your time and your education and information and your heart and your energy.
Thank you so much, Kourtney. It was great being here. I appreciate you inviting me on.
All right. So once again, you can go to DrMilllie.com for more information.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining me on today's episode of The Impact Zone. My desire is that you find it to be enlightening, encouraging, and supportive of your transformation from the inside out, helping you to live your purpose and create the life you deserve to live. You can find out more about me and my services at coachingwithkourtney.com. Be sure to check out the events page for what's happening now. I thank you in advance for subscribing to the podcast on your favorite platform and for sharing it with like-minded people. And until next time, stay true to the real you. I'm Courtney Coleman. Have you ever been to the doctor and waited 30 to 45 minutes in the lobby just to get permission to go to the back room and wait another 20 minutes for your physician? Your physician comes in, looks at you, says, "Here's your Band-Aid," and sends you on your way, and you're healed and out. Everything is all right with the world. However, for people who have mental health disorders, it is not that way. While we wait in the lobby, and then we go to the back, we're told by our physician, "I can't help you with that. I need to refer you to a psychologist." This person leaves the office unsupported as they wait to find a psychologist and book the appointment. After finding the psychologist and booking the appointment, they get to the psychologist thinking this is the answer. And yet again, they are told they need to go somewhere else. "I have to refer you to a psychiatrist." So the person leaves the office unsupported yet again. When the person finds the psychiatrist, books the psychiatrist, and finally gets there, they're told, "This is your diagnosis, this is your medication, and see you in 5 to 6 weeks." However, this person is still unsupported during this time, or maybe even in crisis. And that is why I'm your mental health coach, who is the bridge of support for individuals with mental health challenges to navigate the lonely and unsupported gaps between provider appointments with my Inside Out method to restore hope, resiliency, and learn to live their new lives. There's no need to be unsupported anymore. Go to my website and book a discovery appointment, coachingwithkourtney.com. Dedicated to my younger self. Keep going, baby girl. You are not a quitter. You wouldn't be true to who you are or who you were created to be if you gave up now. Quitting isn't you. It never has been. That's why you will get back up every time. Circle back as many times as necessary. Pivot in any direction because you are never starting over. It's already happening. It's only a matter of time. Welcome to your journaling journey. This journal is your invitation to 90 days of intentional self-growth, designed to nurture your mind, body, and soul. Each prompt is crafted to guide you towards clarity, resilience, and purpose, helping you grow with intention every day. This is more than just a journal. It's a commitment to yourself, a space to reflect, evolve, and step into your fullest, most enjoyable and authentic life on your terms. Because you deserve to live with sanity, clarity, and confidence, free from the weight of others' opinions. Your journey starts now. Let's go. Thank you for joining me on today's episode of The Impact Zone. My desire is that you found it to be enlightening, encouraging, and supportive of your transformation from the inside out, helping you to live out your purpose and create the life you deserve to live. You can find out more about me and my coaching services at www.courtney Coleman.com. CourtneyColeman.com. Be sure to check out the events page for what's happening now, like the Drift to Sleep, the free group hypnosis, the first and the third Thursday of each month. And remember to check out the Shop with Kourtney area, where you can find all the journals. I thank you in advance for subscribing to the podcast on your favorite platform and for sharing it with like-minded people. And until next time, stay true to the real you. I'm Kourtney Coleman.